If the Earth could exhale, this is what it would release. A sharp scent carried on heat. A yellow flame rising from broken ground. For thousands of years, sulfur frightened humanity before it empowered it. It shaped myths of fire and judgment, fueled the first weapons of war, and quietly entered the chemistry of life itself. Hidden in volcanoes, medicine, industry, and even your DNA, sulfur has shaped civilization in silence. This is the story of the element that never stopped burning. From the earliest moments of human history, there has existed an element that seemed alive. It burned without mercy. It smelled of warning. It emerged from the earth itself, hissing and glowing, as if the planet were exhaling fire. This element was sulfur. Long before it was understood, sulfur announced its presence through flame and smoke. Volcanoes spoke in its language. Hot springs carried its breath. The ground itself cracked open to release its sharp, unmistakable scent. To ancient humans, sulfur did not feel like matter. It felt like intent. This is the story of sulfur, an element that shaped belief, warfare, medicine, and life itself. An element that stands at the boundary between creation and destruction. Sulfur is one of the oldest elements known to humanity. It appears naturally in its pure form, bright yellow and crystalline, scattered across volcanic regions of the Earth. Unlike many elements that hide within ores, sulfur reveals itself openly, coating rocks and soil as if placed there deliberately. This visibility ensured that sulfur entered human awareness early. But understanding did not follow quickly. To ancient civilizations, sulfur was not a substance. It was a force. The Greeks associated sulfur with divine fire. The word sulfur itself traces back to terms describing burning stone. Homer wrote of sulfur being used to purify spaces, believing its smoke could cleanse both physical and spiritual corruption. In Rome, sulfur fumes were used to disinfect homes. People noticed that pests fled from it, that decay slowed in its presence. Without chemistry, without equations, humans recognized sulfur as something that changed the world around it. Yet sulfur was not only feared, it was desired. When combined with charcoal and saltpeter, sulfur became one of the most transformative discoveries in human history. Gunpowder. In this mixture, sulfur played a critical role. It lowered the ignition temperature, allowing fire to spread rapidly through the powder. Without sulfur, gunpowder would have been unreliable, weak, and difficult to ignite. Through sulfur, fire was tamed and weaponized. Empires rose with it. Walls fell before it. Battles were decided by the speed at which sulfur allowed flame to travel. But sulfur's influence did not stop at war. As chemistry evolved, sulfur revealed a deeper identity. It is element 16 on the periodic table, a nonmetal with remarkable versatility. Sulfur forms bonds easily, creating compounds that range from essential nutrients to lethal toxins. This dual nature defines sulfur more than any other element. Sulfur is essential to life. Inside every living cell, sulfur atoms form the backbone of critical amino acids. Cysteine and methionine rely on sulfur to give proteins their structure. Disulfide bonds, created by sulfur, allow proteins to fold into precise shapes, determining how enzymes function and how cells communicate. Without sulfur, life as we know it would collapse. Hair, skin, nails, muscles, and immune responses all depend on sulfur chemistry. It quietly holds biology together, unseen but indispensable. Yet the same element that stabilizes life can also suffocate it. Sulfur dioxide, released from burning sulfur or fossil fuels, irritates lungs and corrodes tissues. Hydrogen sulfide, the gas that smells like rotten eggs, can paralyze the sense of smell at high concentrations, making it especially dangerous. This contradiction has followed sulfur throughout history. It heals. It poisons. It builds. It destroys. Nowhere is this more visible than in Earth itself. Volcanoes are sulfur's most dramatic expression. Deep beneath the surface, sulfur compounds dissolve into molten rock. As magma rises, pressure drops, and sulfur escapes violently as gas. The yellow plumes that rise from volcanic vents are sulfur announcing its presence. The choking air near eruptions is sulfur dioxide spreading across the sky. These emissions alter climate. They reflect sunlight, cooling the planet temporarily. Entire harvests have failed because sulfur aerosols dimmed the sun after massive eruptions. Sulfur has shaped not only landscapes, but atmospheres. And long before oxygen filled the skies, sulfur ruled Earth's chemistry. Early life thrived in sulfur-rich environments. Deep-sea vents, saturated with sulfur compounds, provided energy for organisms that did not rely on sunlight. Even today, entire ecosystems exist around sulfur metabolism, where bacteria breathe sulfur instead of oxygen. In these environments, sulfur is not toxic. It is fuel. This hints at an ancient truth. Life did not adapt to sulfur. Life emerged with it. As human understanding matured, sulfur became a cornerstone of industry. Sulfuric acid emerged as one of the most important chemicals ever produced. So essential that industrial capacity is often measured by how much sulfuric acid a nation can manufacture. This acid processes fertilizers, refines petroleum, purifies metals, and produces countless materials used in modern life. Batteries, detergents, pharmaceuticals, and textiles all rely on sulfur chemistry. Civilization runs on sulfur more than most people realize. Even agriculture depends on it. Sulfur restores soil fertility. Plants require sulfur to synthesize proteins and enzymes. Without it, crops weaken and yields collapse. Once again, sulfur stands at the foundation of survival. But the price of sulfur's power is constant vigilance. Acid rain, driven by sulfur emissions, scars forests and lakes. Industrial pollution transforms sulfur from a nutrient into an environmental threat. Entire ecosystems suffer when sulfur cycles are disrupted. Sulfur reminds humanity that chemistry is never neutral. It reflects intention. Use it with care, and it sustains life. Abuse it, and it reshapes the world violently. Even symbolically, sulfur has always carried weight. In religious texts, sulfur is associated with judgment and fire. Brimstone became a metaphor for destruction, drawn directly from sulfur's burning nature. The image of fire and sulfur falling from the sky was not poetic invention. It was observation. Humanity looked at sulfur and saw the raw power of the earth expressed openly. Yet sulfur is not evil. It is honest. It reacts according to rules older than life itself. Its flames do not judge. Its gases do not choose victims. Sulfur simply obeys chemistry. In modern laboratories, sulfur continues to surprise. New sulfur-based compounds show promise in medicine, energy storage, and materials science. Lithium-sulfur batteries may one day outperform current technologies. Sulfur polymers are being explored for environmental cleanup. Even now, this ancient element refuses to become obsolete. From the fires of volcanoes to the proteins in your body, sulfur exists everywhere. Invisible in some places, unavoidable in others. It breathes fire from the earth. It binds life at the molecular level. It bridges destruction and creation with equal precision. Sulfur is not just an element. It is a reminder that the same forces that threaten life are often the ones that made it possible. That nature does not separate danger from necessity. And that understanding an element means respecting both its power and its purpose. This is sulfur, the element that breathes fire, and the silent architect of life itself.